Hello, Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Eden Zero, Chapter 145. When we last left our heroes, Eraser and the IUA sort of entered into an informal alliance with Oasis to fight back against the Empire. Back on the surface, Shiki tried to go to the Eden Zero to help the Starshines in their struggle against Shora, but he was dogpiled by a bunch of the bots that Shora has summoned the chapter before that. And then they all exploded. Jean went to go check it out. We'll see what comes of that. But before we get to really check in on that, we go back to Underground, where Homura has just been replaced with Mirror Homura. The gang nearly manages to beat Mirror Homura with Pino EMPing Mirror Homura's ether abilities that would have allowed Wise to tranquilize her, but then Wise got replaced with Mirror Wise, so Rebecca ran back 90 seconds to right after Homura got possessed. They all ran off, and we checked in on the real Homura in the Mirror World, who now has to fight Milani, which takes us right into this chapter, Chapter 145, Homura versus Milani. But first, we have a character file for Clean. Name Clean Rutherford, powers Wind Ether Gear, Wind Snatch, likes her brother and anything cute, dislikes spam messages, that's new, attack 3 stars, defense 5 stars, marksmanship 3 stars, ether power and intelligence both 2 stars, that's kind of mean, I feel like, loves her brother 5 stars. She was originally one of Draken's Element 4, but a spirit of friendship sprouted after her intense battle against Homura. She had lost her emotions because of some trauma in her past, but Miss Sister helped her get them back. The way she talks, it is very cute. Chapter 145, Homura versus Milani. And we open back with Milani kind of taunting Homura. This is the mirror world. The world inside my ether gear. Mirror trick. And Homura just sort of, resolutely stares Milani down as Milani taunts, in this dimension, no one can defeat me. And just behind Milani, the mirror cracks, sending a bunch of shards towards Homura. Homura jumps out of the way, dodges all the mirror shards. She lands. That mirror is mostly depleted of shards, but she's still surrounded by mirrors. Oh, the important thing is that Milani is gone. That's what she's noticing there. And Homura looks around. Has she vanished? But Milani is in a shard right under her feet. I'm right here. And Homura looks down in shock. As Milani kicks out of the shard, her leg, making contact with Homura's torso. Just her leg, though. The rest of her is still inside the mirror. And Homura looks around, and Milani reappears in a fully formed mirror behind her. Over here, can she move within the mirrors? And we see copies of Milani all around her, all around Homura, in all of the mirrors. This is giving me very much like Naruto and Sasuke versus Haku vibes, which is a classic fight. Let's see if this holds up to it. But Milani taunts her, where is the real me? Hehe, over here. And Homura tries to logic this all out. No, wait. We are already inside a mirror. So she's inside a mirror, within a mirror. Thinking about this is tiresome. Milani reappears above her. You don't have to think about it. After all, it won't be long now before you shatter. And Homura questions her, shatter? Yes. And the mirror Milani is in shatters itself, and the pieces rain down towards Homura, meaning your life will be smashed to pieces. So it seems there, though when Milani is saying shattered, she means that in a metaphorical sense. That Homura has not been hit with some kind of curse that will eventually make her shatter like glass, but just that Milani's gonna kill her. But we'll see how accurate that reading is. Anyway, all the shards fall towards Homura, and she just starts slashing at them. I like, by the way, I've not really noticed it yet, until just now. Even the sound effects are in reverse. I'm assuming they're doing that in the Japanese version too, but I'm not not familiar enough at all with Japanese to comment one way or the other. But the English, thump, 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 as they're all falling, is in reverse, as is the pling, 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 as Homura deflects them all. If the anime gets this far, I'm really curious if they're going to try to carry over the reverse sound effects that the manga has. But anyway, Milani's kind of stunned at her attack's ineffectiveness. She struck down every shard. No. And we see she reflected them back at me, and Homura is sending those right back at where Milani was. If Milani is still there is a whole other question. But they all hit the wall. Milani's just kind of disappearing from mirror shard to mirror shard. I'm impressed, but when I'm inside the mirrors, no one can catch me. And Homura goes to, I think, grab the mirror Milani has most recently appeared in, and does slash her. So apparently Milani is physically in one of the mirrors. But Milani, like, reforms in the mirror world, outside of the mirror. Milani is stunned. How did you find me? And Homura looks at her, with the help of your incessant prattling. And Milani just kind of tries to shake it off. Still, I'm surprised you managed to pinpoint my exact location. In that case, let's try this. And with her ether gear, the mirror shards are just going to do it. It's kind of the same thing again, but now without Milani in the mirror. As she throws the mirror shards at Homura, she tries to deflect them, but inside the mirror she sees herself. Seemingly not just a normal reflection, because she's shocked. Me? And after she cuts it, she starts to throb. And the cuts happen all over her body. She's all of a sudden cut up. Milani taunts her, when you attack your reflection in the mirror, you're only hurting yourself. And with that, Homer kind of knows the rules of the game now with the next attack, and she's just not striking, just sort of deflecting them. You see that? Now all you can do is defend. Well, and then she appears right next to Homura. Well, I do whatever I want. And her arm appears out of a shard and grabs Homura's arm. Another arm grabs Homura's other arm. And then from two more shards, her knees come out and just, like, knock into Homura's face. Mirror World Finisher! And we're seeing even more hands emerging from the shards. Like, we see at least, not counting the two arms grabbing Homura, for, I think, 5 other arms? 6, maybe 6? No, I think it's 5. Still, I'm not quite sure how that's supposed to work. I can accept, using her 2 arms to grab Homura, having them reappear from different shards. But I don't know how she gets 7 arms. I don't know. Anyway, Homura goes flying, and she hits the ground, and Milani taunts, I do hope you'll stop underestimating the Empire. I don't know who you and your little friends are, but you chose the wrong people to pick a fight with. And Homura just lies there, as Milani continues, I am one of 6 chosen by the ruler of the entire Aoi cosmos, Poseidon Nero himself. We are the Ocean 6, the most powerful soldiers in this cosmos. And Homura picks herself up and says, I am Homura, of the Demon King's 4 shining stars, the sword that will guide the Eden Zero to Mother. And this sword is trembling with the need to strike down the Empire's evil deeds. But Milani counters, evil? We fight for the people of Aoi. And Homura counters, but that doesn't include the lives of its androids. Androids are machines. You can't honestly believe they have lives. So, interesting note here. Comparing this to, say, a character like Goodwin is the first thing that pops into my mind. Is that the argument between Homura and Milani is that, Milani is saying we fight for the good of the organic beings of the Nero Empire. And Homura doesn't really challenge that point. She just says you have to consider the androids. Which, like, is fitting with the whole story and everything. But what it kind of brings to mind, though, is Goodwin, who does not believe that. Who, cites high taxation and lack of freedom, and all these other things the Empire has kind of imposed on the lower classes. And that's not really what Homura is bringing up. And she's not really challenging what Milani is saying. Or she's not challenging the facts of Milani's case in a way that a character like Goodwin might. And I'm curious if that really amounts to anything. I'm not quite sure. We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, Milani throws more shards Homura's way, and Homura looks in the shard, and there's a glint, and she slashes it. I'm curious if that's affecting mirror Homura more than our Homura, because we see the mirror should be reflecting the stream of blood under Homura's eye, but it's not. But she cuts it, and seemingly is uninjured by it. And Milani reacts, "What? But that mirror was reflecting you!" And Homura is affected by it. She is cut. That means nothing as long as I fear not the pain. Oh, she's just taken the hits. Milani, retreats back into a mirror. You can't be serious. And we see Homura's ether line start to leave her arm and head towards her foot. Is this an overdrive? Because I think the last time we saw ether lines moving like that was when Shiki went overdrive, back in the Belial Gore arc. Warrior Maid, ultimate attack! Odin strike! Yeah, that's her fucking overdrive. She's grown cat ears, for one thing. Her hair is now, if not white, at least a light color, and I think is at least a little bit longer. We even see her hair lightening at the bottom of page 15. And she just has a whole slew of swords headed towards Milani. I love the name Odin Strike there, as it's very clearly a callback to Valkyrie, which is similarly associated with Norse mythology in a way that Homura as a character really isn't. So the Odin Strike name is very clearly a callback to Valkyrie and not part of Homura's own aesthetic. So that's a nice callback to her mentor. And the mirror with Milani in it is shattering. My mirror is breaking! And the swords are just destroying the mirror world. This power, the ether's critical point. Overdrive? And yep, I was right. That is Homura in her overdrive form, looking like a fucking badass. We stan a queen. But we leave that scene there, with perhaps the Milani fight finished. I'm pretty sure Mashima does have a theme of ending fights on their X versus Y chapters. So this could be the only Homura and Milani chapter. If so, a good fucking fight there. But we cut to Jean, who is headed to the explosion that got Shiki. And he looks over at it. Looks like the explosion was much bigger than we thought. And then he lands, and he sees Shiki. But he just knew Shiki was there already. He doesn't actually see Shiki. He just sees the destroyed bots. Mutilated robot parts from more than one droid. What happened? Shiki, are you okay? And then he sees something, and the smoke starts to clear. Is that... and that's the end. We don't see what he sees. Is it Shiki... Presumably, Shiki is either the most likely choice is Shiki in some kind of bad state, or it's just a member of Oceans. Maybe that's less likely. I think it's just Shiki injured. The only reason I wouldn't think it's Shiki injured is that seeing Shiki beaten, bloodied, and near death is just a much better cliffhanger than the cliffhanger we got of just of Jean not knowing what something is. Either way, it does good work to set up more Jean character work. I mentioned last time just the development shown in Jean going to check on Shiki and leaving clean to the battlefield. That's not the Jean to like the beginning of the Aoi Cosmos saga. It's nice to see that he's really started to become a member of the crew in a way that he wasn't before. But anyway, the real focus of this chapter is Homura versus Milani. And it's a lot of fun. I like that I like the progression of it. Homura seemed to have the upper hand. It's a little bit unclear how she's able to strike Milani that first time. My best guess is that it's actually more like Haku than I was kind of thinking at first, and that only one of those mirrors actually has the real Milani. Though either way, Milani is able to physically appear, at least in part, through multiple shards at once. The details are a little like I can visualize how that would work, but I can't really put it into words. And admittedly, the story itself is kind of aware of that, as we see on page 5, as Homura kind of like amusingly tries to work out the logic of the mirror world. She is inside a mirror within a mirror. Thinking about this is tiresome, which feels like a way of Mashima saying, don't think too deep about the logistics of the mirror worlds. That's not really the important part of this chapter, and he's right, it's not really the important part here. The important part is seeing Homura at least be able to work out vaguely how it works to get that first strike, to struggle again as the shards start to damage her. And then the good thing is, though, that because it doesn't really feel like an ass pull when she overcomes the cuts at the end, when she does slice her own reflection, because the cuts we see on page 11 are fairly minor. They're like, grazed, because this is a Mashima manga and he has to have his fan service in here. They're largely, the things that aren't super bloodying her, but are largely getting her clothes. We're like, okay, Mashima, I know who you are. I know what I signed up for. But because the individual, the real danger of Homura's actions there is just the sheer number of cuts she's getting, it makes sense when she can kind of overcome them by sheer force of will. She's not uninjured, but those minor cuts, she powers through them. And then goes overdrive. Which is great. Her devotion to the crew, to the bots, her determination to defeat Milani lets her go overdrive with a move that is a direct callback to Valkyrie, which is great, with Odin's Strike. And I'm assuming Milani is done here. That Homura's overdrive is the moment of her overcoming Milani. Maybe she'll still have to struggle a little bit to get out of the mirror world, or maybe Milani's defeat will sort of, eject her from the mirror world. We don't really know. But yeah, this is a great fucking Homura chapter. I love it. Homura is a queen, and she deserves the world, and her overdrive is great. I'm not quite sure, beyond just sort of, I don't want to say fetish, but people being into, cat ears, or I guess fox ears. I don't know what the fox ears are meant to be a reference to. I know foxes sort of have a somewhat mythological status, I think, in Japanese culture, which would fit with Homura's own design aesthetic. So maybe it's coming in from that, possibly. But it definitely does not fit as far as I know, the Norse mythology that she gets her attack name from. Though that's just more her and Valkyrie having different design aesthetics. Either way, it's just a great fucking design. Homura is wonderful. She deserves the world. But next time, something with Jean and Shiki, or maybe in Oceans, who knows. But yeah, this chapter was a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see where it all goes from here. So I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, do whatever makes you happy, And remember, your life is your own, okay? Bye!